Bad things always happen to me. It's not my fault. It's unfair. If these are things that you found yourself saying recently, well, I've got the solution to your dilemma. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Growth Quest. What I've just described is something called a victim mentality, and it just may be the one thing that's preventing you from leveling up. Okay, so what exactly is a victim mentality? Essentially, a victim mentality is never taking responsibility for your actions and always blaming other people for your faults. This is when someone says bad things always happen to me. They will usually blame other people for their misfortunes, and they believe that they have no control over the bad things that happen to them. So what are some signs that someone who has a victim mentality may display? They may have a negative attitude in general. They may often feel angry or resentful towards other people. They may have a lot of self-pity and feel that life is unfair or that their current situation is unfair. They may get defensive and be unable to receive criticism. They may lack empathy for other people. They may display stuck thinking, which is when they have trouble looking at solutions to their problems. They only see one bad outcome. They may avoid discussing solutions to their problems. They often will not take responsibility for their current situation or current dilemma. They will often seek out other people who will validate their feelings and agree with their negative attitudes. And they may often have a hard time being happy for other people, especially when they're seeing some levels of success. They may feel jealousy or envy. So these are some current examples of negative mentality that I have heard most recently. My generation got screwed. I'll never make enough money to afford the lifestyle that I want to live. I've been discriminated against. They don't like me because they're racist. They don't like me because they're sexist. I've also heard it's not fair and it's not my fault. So I just want to take a moment to say sometimes these things are true. Sometimes life is not fair. Sometimes you are discriminated against based on race or religion or what gender you are. And sometimes bad things really do happen to you and they really do seem unfair. Here's where things get tricky. If you stay in that mindset that things are unfair based off of circumstances that are out of your control, you're going to feel like that there's nothing that you can do to make your situation better, and you're going to fall into a learned helplessness. And that's going to prevent you from even trying. And that's a problem that's going to hold you back from leveling up. So let's just talk real quick. Why does a victim mentality happen? So there's a couple reasons. So the first reason is we experience trauma. And we've all experienced some level of trauma. And often this trauma is experienced in childhood, and it forms who we are and how we view the world. Another reason someone may have a victim mentality is they're seeking validation. They learned to find validation about themselves through other people, and this often happens when they complain about their situation and other people try and make them feel good or feel better. And they kind of get addicted to seeking that validation from other people. Now, I just want to say, validation should be based off of how you feel about yourself and your own accomplishments. And another very common reason why people have a victim mentality is because they are avoiding accountability and responsibility, and they usually do this based out of fear. And that fear is usually a fear of failure or a fear of judgment by other people. So I want to talk for a minute about a concept called learned helplessness. So back in 1967, an American psychologist named Martin Seligman conducted an experiment. Now, I just want to throw out a disclaimer real quick. This experiment is a little brutal. It involves some animal abuse, so just a warning for you guys. So Martin placed dogs in a couple different groups, and he exposed these dogs to electrical shocks. Now, some of these dogs could stop the electrical shocks by performing certain actions, and some dogs could not stop the shocks, no matter what they did. The dogs that could not stop the shock learned that they had no control over their situation, and they eventually gave up and just succumbed to the shocks. The dogs that were able to stop the shocks did learn how to stop them and would do so. Finally, all the dogs were subjected to the shocks again, but this time they all had the ability to stop the shocks by moving off of the shock mat. Now, the dogs that were subjected to the shocks and were unable to escape and learned helplessness did not try and escape these shocks, even when they had the ability to. Now, this is opposed to the other dogs who did not have the learned helplessness behavior, and they were able to escape the shocks, and they did. And there have been similar tests that have done with humans, and basically the results have been the same. Humans can learn helplessness. So why do I bring this story up? The reason I'm telling you the story is because I want you guys to understand that a learned helplessness is something that we actually learn over time based off of our circumstances. If we grew up in a childhood where we really did not have control over our situation and things really did feel hopeless, we're going to go into adulthood feeling like we don't have any control over a bad situation. The good news is we can unlearn this behavior, and that's going to be the key to really leveling up. Okay, so how do we destroy a victim mentality? First and foremost, you must adopt the belief that you are 100% responsible for your actions and behaviors. You have the ability and the responsibility to control how you respond to any situation. The second thing that you can do to really help undo learned helplessness is to start the practice of journaling daily. So at the end of the day, you can know any conflict or any challenges that you face during the day. Then you want to ask yourself, how did I respond to that challenge or conflict? Was it negative? Did you feel like a victim? Did you default to blaming other people? And lastly, you want to ask yourself, how could I have responded to that situation or conflict differently? What would have been a more positive way to respond? Okay, the third thing you guys can do is build your confidence and positivity. We've talked about this a little bit in some of the previous videos, but the best way to do this is to make a commitment to yourself and then follow through on that commitment. That is the way to build confidence. And this is how you prove to yourself that you do have control over what happens to you. You do have control over your life. And the last thing that I would recommend to break a victim mentality is to seek therapy. Now, this is especially important if you've experienced some severe trauma, especially in childhood. Any type of major trauma like physical abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, or neglect should be processed with a professional. And in therapy, you can also figure out what is the primary fear that you have that's holding you back, or the primary fear that's giving you a victim mentality or a negative mindset. Okay, so these are some great tools that you guys can use to start breaking down a victim mentality. All right, guys, you can control your thoughts and beliefs and how you respond to situations. And once you make the decision to take control of your actions and your thoughts and to overcome this victim mentality, all the doors unlock, all the possibilities open up for you. It's kind of like a master key. Literally every door will open up, opportunities are endless, and you will see the world in a different and much better way. And I promise this will make a huge difference in your life. As always, I'm very proud of all of you. This is one of the hardest things for people to overcome, especially if you've been used to blaming other people, if you always felt like you had no control over your situation, if you've always felt like bad things always happen to you. It can be challenging at first to break this mindset and to take control of your life. But I promise you that you can do it. And I promise you it'll make a huge difference for you in your life. As always, guys, like and subscribe. I really appreciate your support. And I really hope these videos are helping you level up and become the person you were made to be. Okay, we'll see you in the next one. Bye.